Hey Pixies, welcome to Manis and Monsters. So I will be doing my Frankenstein manicure. I'm showing you all of the products. I have prompts on the screen of what I'm doing, and everything will be linked down below in the description box. If you have any questions about the manicure, you can feel free to ask me in the comments section, but I will be reading you stories from Reddit, from their paranormal subreddits, and I get them from various subreddits. They are told as true stories. So obviously I don't know if they're true, but the people telling them say that they happened to them or somebody that they know. So they're supposedly true stories. So I am going to get into the first story for tonight. In Manis and Monsters Part 1, I told a story about a young boy in Mexico and the shape-shifting witch. At the end of that story, he referenced his uncle's farm and a baby crying in the field. I went back, I found him, I found the story, and that is going to be our first one. I was born in the USA, but used to visit Mexico often pre-COVID. Probably twice a year as a kid and once a year when I started living on my own. This was my first experience when I went. I was around 9. If you're not aware, some places in Mexico are enchanted or plain out haunted. I was staying with my uncle at the time in the country. Country meaning a lot of houses do not have electricity and the nights can get pitch black. Even though my life was padded in the US, it was still neat to see how my uncle lived. My mom and siblings came, but I chose to stay with my uncles that time because I was close to them. They owned a farm that was in the middle of nowhere. They had electricity but would try not to use it. They had a barn and a huge cornfield. I remember this day like it was yesterday. I helped my uncle to do chores around the farm, feed the animals mainly while he did the heavier work. We went inside before sundown, ate, and went to bed. I remember waking up in the middle of the night and checking my wristwatch. It was almost 3 a.m. I don't know what woke me, but I looked around and I saw a shadow figure by the window looking out. Now I'm shitting bricks and I quietly call out to my uncle. We were sleeping in the same room. He quickly shushed. I stopped talking and it went eerily quiet. Not a bug or bird making a noise. That's when I heard it. It sounded like a baby crying, but it sounded very far away. It gave me chills. He went to get his brother, my other uncle. He told me to come on and grabbed his shotgun and his dog. Told me to hold a flashlight and to hold his dog's leash, and we went outside to see where the crying was coming from. We waited and we heard the crying coming from the cornfield. I looked at my uncles and they both looked scared. They decided to go investigate and brought me along. I was terrified the farther we went onto that cornfield. They originally thought it was a fox or coyote, but they said they know what they sounded like, and they sounded like a human child. Now we were hearing the crying constantly. Every time we went further in, the crying would sound farther and farther in. This field was so huge, we were maybe a quarter mile in, and my other uncle said he felt something in his gut that something was wrong, and we needed to get out of there immediately. He said to run with his dog and the dog will lead you home, but to shine the flashlight behind you so that they could follow. As soon as I took off the run, the crying got super loud and sounded so close. I ran and I reached the farm pretty fast. My uncles did too, and we got inside and boarded up the house. They stayed up until sunrise. I asked them what was that. My older uncle stammered and said he didn't know, but something was trying to lure us in there. Our next story is titled Footsteps, Voices, Ghost Witch, and More. Hi everyone, I figured I'd share a few of my encounters on here since I don't have many people that like to hear my stories due to them not believing in ghosts, spirits, demons, etc. I have always been a believer since I've been experiencing things from a very young age. I'll go in order from my least to most frightening that I've encountered so far, so if you're interested, please keep reading. I've always felt energies rather well. If something doesn't feel right, as in I don't feel alone, I stay away. As a kid, I only felt these energies. I never had anything speak to me, touch me, or make itself known until I turned 13. I always tell it to go away or I leave the negative space. However, it's a bit hard when that's happening in your own bedroom, and all of my stories mostly happen in all my rooms, houses I lived in as a teenager. The first real experience I had that wasn't just a weird vibe was a voice I heard. It sounded inhuman. I was stood in my bathroom at midnight around 13 years old after my family had gone to bed. As I was looking in the mirror, I hear a deep voice speaking gibberish in my right ear. I couldn't and still can't make out what it said. My heart sank to the floor and I whipped my head around to look in my room to see if anyone was there. And of course, there's no one. Just as I'm about to turn back around, I hear it in my left ear again. The same gibberish I'd heard seconds before. I hightailed it out of there so fast I might as well have left smoke behind me. My second experience was when I was 15. We had just moved from our old house, the one with the previous story, into the one I still live in now. Immediately when moving, something didn't feel right. The old house had a much darker energy to it, just overall more heavy in its atmosphere, if that makes sense. This one felt a bit lighter, but my experiences started happening left and right from move-in day. I remember being scared to sleep in my room. I wrote it off as just a new space that I needed to get used to. Until the footsteps in the hallway started. We have a raised foundation with a carpet and it's rather creaky if anyone were to walk down it. We do have 3 dogs, but they didn't weigh enough to make creaks the way we did. On multiple occasions, I heard footsteps leading from my bedroom, down the hall to the front entrance. My dog on one occasion followed it from my room, and through the crack in my door, I could hear him going between a growling and a whimper as the steps kept going. He was acknowledging it just as I was, and that was validation enough for me. On another night, I was standing in my bathroom in the same hallway. From the mirror, I could see into the living room behind me. My room was in the opposite direction at the end of the hall. I was brushing my teeth when I heard a loud bang as if something heavy had fallen from our linen cabinet to the floor. The ground even shook a little bit. I could see my cat in the mirror that was sat in the living room, and her eyes went from me to it. Suddenly, I start to hear the footsteps coming. I'm frozen in place, watching my cat watch whatever it was that was walking. The footsteps go from the very end of the hall past me and past my cat, who had never took her eyes off of it. All the while, nothing ever walked past me. It got right in front of my cat before going into the living room, where it suddenly stopped. She looked back at me like, "You saw that too, right?" I swear when pets see that stuff too, you just have that sinking feeling of you can't make up some rational explanation. My third experience that I'll share was when I was about 16, 17. This one has freaked me out since it's happened and made me afraid to sleep alone for a while. I had fallen asleep despite getting a weird vibe. I was exhausted, so I wrote it off and fell asleep anyways. But boy, was that a mistake. I remember dreaming, nothing in particular, but then the dream just stopped. I was suddenly jolted awake by my head turning abruptly and a stinging on my face. I had been slapped, a full, good, powerful slap, enough to wake me up in confusion. My face hurt, and I remember putting my hand to my cheek as I sat up looking around the room, terrified to see anything there. The energy was off, and I felt the fear spreading throughout my body. But what I did see was my cat, sitting in the middle of my room, just staring at me. She was dead still and quiet, looking like she'd just seen a ghost. There's really no explanation that I can find to this one, but that was the first time I'd been touched by something in a negative manner, and it freaked me the hell out. The last experience was somewhat of a dream, but it's the only time I've ever seen a ghost. I'm a firm believer that if I wake up in a dream and there's something in the corner of my room, it's really there, just watching me sleep. And this is one of those stories. I had fallen asleep pretty early that night. I wasn't really dreaming until I had woken up and felt terrified upon being conscious. There was something with me and I knew it. I reluctantly opened my eyes to see a woman standing in the corner of my room. She looked like what I can describe as a witch. She had a veil covering her face that was all gray and dirty, and a floor-length dress just as torn up and filthy. I could see every feature of her face, the dark eyes, the nasty, malicious grin she had, and her somewhat decaying-looking skin. Upon opening my eyes, I see her standing there watching me. I blinked to get the sleep out of my eyes, and she was in my face, nose to nose. She had just flew across the room to right in front of me. I suddenly woke up from the dream to myself instinctively pulling away from her. I was sleeping in the same position I had woken up to in the dream, directly facing the corner she had been in. The feeling I had was dread and pure fear. I immediately told it to go away and remember having a hard time falling back asleep after that. These are just some of the experiences I wanted to share. I know it's lengthy, but if you reach the end, thanks for listening. I still have yet to see a ghost while awake, but the experiences I have make me feel validated enough to know that they're real and to not mess with the unknown. I wanted to share to see if anyone would find them entertaining or interesting. Our next story is titled Chilling Incident from My Business Trip. Hi everyone, this is one of those incidents which happened to me while I was on a business trip to Dubai. I'm based in Canada and used to work for a well-reputed global chocolate and confectionery producer in the Policy and Controls Department. I was tasked with going on a 2-week assignment to Dubai where we had acquired an entity. The objective was to document their processes, identify weaknesses, and ultimately present it to management. Anyway, long story short, I was given a 4-star hotel which was on the Causeway. I won't name the hotel, but it's based in the Internet City District and next to the transit station. I traveled to Dubai in mid-July and the off-season was starting since in a couple of days the religious month for Dubai was starting. During this month, all bars and clubs are generally closed, which causes a decline in tourism during that month also. Anyway, the first 2 days went fine. The hotel room I got was on the 36th floor. It was aptly named the Mediterranean Room, and the walls were full of paintings and colored in red and bronze and gold. The room was a suite where there was a master bedroom, a small dryer room, and a living area with balcony. The first 2 days were fine, and the hotel was pretty busy. The third night was when the hotel started going empty due to checkouts, and I was pretty much fine and enjoying my stay. It was on the 5th day that I woke up with sounds like someone was throwing boulders outside. I thought it was maintenance work, but it was around 2 a.m. in the morning. I called the front desk to complain, and they said there was no maintenance work on any of the floors at this time. I asked them if there were any other guests on the floor who were making noise. They said they will check, and the noise by that time had disappeared. I was up and smoking a cigarette when the phone rang. The front reception told me that the hotel was pretty much vacant with a few guests on the 28th floor and the 32nd floor, while my floor was pretty much vacant. The mezzanine floor was fully occupied with the hotel's own staff and employees, but other than that, they did not receive any other complaints. Anyway, I thought it may have been a figment of my imagination and tried to ignore it and get back to sleep for office the next day. I had to mention now that I used to lock the bedroom door, and then there was a small room, washing, drying, a living area, and then the suite entrance, which was also locked. I did this for security purposes. After around an hour, at 3 a.m., I woke up to the noise of the dryer machine running. That literally freaked me out and my heart was racing. I tried to get up and out of my bed but was frozen with fear. After gaining some confidence and trying to think I'm hearing things, I got up from my bed and put my head towards the room door to ensure that the dryer is not running. Guess what? It was the dryer, all right. My heart was racing. I was smoking cigarettes like a chimney and sat on my bed quietly listening to it. After about 45 minutes, I noticed the dryer went off, but my heart was still racing with fear. I could not find myself to call the reception, thinking they might assume I'm crazy or something. A couple of minutes had passed and I literally hear 3 perfectly sounding knocks on my bedroom door. This was impossible for some human to do. My main suite door was locked from the inside and my bedroom door was locked. I picked up my phone and called my girlfriend and spoke with her. I literally did not sleep that night. The next morning, I immediately went down and asked for an early checkout and went to stay at a friend's place for the remaining trip. FYI, I travel frequently to different hotels, but this was honestly my first and last experience to date, which was chilling, and to date causes me to develop goosebumps when I narrate it. Okay, so we are totally done. What do you think? I thought this manicure turned out so cute. I loved it. So I'm going to apply some cuticle oil. While I do that, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps YouTube recommend it to others. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on because I have new videos every Monday and Thursday. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, or you can find me on Instagram at dippingpixie. That's it for this one, guys, and I will see you in the next one.